In a dark, enchanted forest somewhere in England in the beginning of the 17th century, there was a coven of witches seething. They had just learned of the newest play that William Shakespeare was working on, Macbeth. The play featured witches known as the Weird Sisters, who had been researched thoroughly based on this coven and used real magic in the play, exposing the witches' darkest secrets. As an act of revenge for sharing this magic with the world, the coven cursed the play. According to legend, on opening night in 1606, the young boy actor playing Lady Macbeth named Hal Berridge died suddenly right before the show opened, forcing William Shakespeare himself to go on stage and play the role. The play also caught the attention of King James, who hated the witchcraft depicted in the play so much that he banned it for 5 years. Today we'll look further into this legend and the horrible luck that this play has had ever since. Even now in the 21st century, actors everywhere are terrified to say the word Macbeth in a theater, believing that it will curse them or the production. Beliefs about the specifics of the curse vary. Most actors believe that saying the name of the play in a theater curses the production and opt instead to refer to it as the Scottish play. There's often a caveat that you can say the name referring to the titular character, not the name of the play, without enacting the curse. However, some believe that the entire play itself is cursed and talking about it or performing it is bad luck. Thankfully, there's a cleansing ritual believed to break the curse. The person who said the word must leave the theater, spin around 3 times, spit, curse, then knock on the theater door to be let back in. Despite how terrifying the legend around the beginning of the play is and how scared even modern actors are of it, almost all of the details in that legend are fictional. Before we get into the myriad of real-life disasters surrounding the curse, it's worth taking a look at how the legend actually developed. As it turns out, the truth is just as interesting as the myth. For starters, even the premise itself that the play includes real magic seems to be a myth. The witches in the play seem to be based primarily on 2 pieces of literature popular at the time: Demonology, published by King James, and The Discovery of Witchcraft by Reginald Scot. Demonology was published in 1597 by King James as a treatise on witchcraft and was a required read for witch hunters. The king was obsessed with the evils of magic after a storm hit while he was sailing with his wife in 1589 and almost killed the couple. James was convinced that the storm was the product of evil spells and ordered a witch hunt in North Berwick. The book includes the ideas of witches transporting themselves invisibly, raising storms, dancing and chanting, animal familiars, and gruesome potions, all ideas also found in Macbeth. Macbeth also seems to have taken inspiration from a book with opposing themes entitled The Discovery of Witchcraft. This book actually aimed to debunk popular beliefs about the supernatural. The book mentions many folklore characters, such as in this quote, "They have so frayed us with spirits, witches, elves, hags, fairies, imps, conjurers, changelings, Robin Goodfellow, hobgoblin, and such other bugs, that we are afraid of our own shadows." If you're familiar with Macbeth and other Shakespeare works such as A Midsummer Night's Dream, you may have noticed a few familiar characters in that list. You might have been able to guess that there is no evidence that a witch coven ever cursed the show. If the magic used in Macbeth was never real, then there would be no reason for any witches to be upset about it being included. Any real magic that did make it into the play was already widely known due to the books mentioned earlier, so it also wouldn't make sense for witches to be upset about some dark secret being exposed in the play. As for the actor playing Lady Macbeth dying, that seems equally unlikely. No actor named Hal Berridge is recorded in prominent lists of theatrical personnel at the time, so he most likely didn't even exist. Although there was a boy named Henry Berridge who was christened on July 28, 1593. This would have made him 13 in 1606, which was the right age to play a female role in London at the time. However, there's no evidence that this boy became a player, let alone died playing Lady Macbeth. The earliest account we have discussing a production of Macbeth comes from the Book of Plays and Notes thereof, Per Forman for Common Policy by Simon Forman in 1611. This book records Forman's impressions of the plots and lessons of 4 plays he saw at the Globe Theatre, one of which was a production of Macbeth on April 20th, 1611, although he mistakenly recorded it as 1610 in his account. This account has no mentions of any bad luck or mishaps that occurred during the play. The English critic Max Beerbohm seems to be the first to make up this story of the actor playing Lady Macbeth dying on opening night. He published it as a joke in 1898 and attributed the account to John Aubrey in the 17th century. However, many took it as fact and repeated it backstage. There is also no evidence that King James banned the play for 5 years. Although he had banned a different play by the King's Men, Shakespeare's acting troupe, in 1604, the same fate doesn't appear to have struck Macbeth. In fact, Macbeth actually seems to have served as propaganda in favor of King James' view on magic. The play portrays magic as evil, which is what James was pushing the public to believe and punish at the time. The entire concept of Macbeth being bad luck seems to be relatively modern as well. The first reference I could find to anything related to the play being unlucky comes from an interview in a British newspaper from 1888. In it, the actor Edward Terry makes the remark that old stagers used to consider the whistling or singing of Locke's music in Macbeth unlucky. The reference to Locke's music refers to Matthew Locke, who lived from 1621 to 1677, and was one of the first composers to write music for Macbeth. It's hard to say when exactly this superstition would have started, since the music had been used since the 17th century, and the stagers were considered old even in 1888, but I'm sure they weren't 200 years old. The music wasn't even in the first production of Macbeth, so the superstition couldn't have been there since the beginning. The superstition of the music in Macbeth being bad luck most likely eventually grew into the whole play being unlucky, with the help of time, bad coincidences, and Max Beerbohm's opening night story. But if the entire origin story of the curse was made up, why are actors so afraid of it today? There have actually been many true tales of misfortunes falling on productions of Macbeth and situations related to the play that are often cited as why you should never say the name of the Scottish play in a theatre. The Astor Place Riot, 1849. While taking a trip down this gruesome twist of memory lane, we'll start with the deadliest case on our list, the Astor Place Riot in 1849. This tragedy started with something as simple as a feud between actors. Edwin Forrest was an American actor who was famous for his ruggedly handsome appearance and his forceful acting style. He was popular among working-class Americans. William Charles Macready was a British actor and had a more restrained method of acting than his American counterpart. He was more popular among wealthy Americans and literary opinion leaders. The opposing factions of fans led to the pair having a professional rivalry that only stoked the anger of fans more. After hearing that Macready was playing the title role of Macbeth on May 7, 1849 in New York at the Astor Place Opera House, Forrest decided to play the same role just a few blocks away at the Broadway Theater and open on the same night. Only a few days after opening, on May 10th, Forrest's supporters arrived outside the Astor Place Opera House during the night's performance. The protesters quickly got out of hand and militia troops were called to the theater. As things got worse, the troops ended up firing their weapons into the crowd. This resulted in at least 22 people dying and many more being injured. After Macready finished his performance, he fled and never acted in America again. Although Edwin Forrest and William Macready had a rivalry between themselves, the riot was a result of much more than that. At the time, Americans didn't have the best relationship with Britain after the War of 1812 had turned their perception of the country sour. They were also seen by the working class as wealthy elites trying to take over their city. The rivalry between the two actors was a representation of a larger social struggle that had deadly results. Lincoln's Boat Reading, 1865. The curse didn't stay in the theater. It eventually found its way to the highest office in America. Now we find ourselves on an eerily quiet, relaxing boat ride in 1865. Who was on this boat? The most notable figure was Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln was a huge fan of Shakespeare, and would often read his works aloud to anyone who would listen. While on this boat returning from Richmond, Lincoln was reading more Shakespearean excerpts to the other passengers. Some of these excerpts were from Macbeth, specifically the ones dealing with the tormented titular character agonizing with his lady in the aftermath of killing King Duncan. One of the passages read had some haunting irony that would be revealed in the following days. "We have scorched the snake, not killed it. Better be with the dead, whom we to gain our peace have sent to peace, than on the torture of the mind to lie. In restless ecstasy Duncan is in his grave, after life's fitful fever he sleeps well." As explained in an article from Folger's Shakespeare Library, Within the week, Lincoln would be sent to peace like Duncan, and John Wilkes Booth, who played Macbeth many times, would be enduring torture of the mind and body in the wake of killing his king. Only 5 days later, Lincoln would find himself enjoying a play at Ford's Theatre, where he would be fatally shot. Laurence Olivier, 1937. Next, we find ourselves in 20th century London. It was 1937, and actor Laurence Olivier was starring in Macbeth at the Old Vic Theatre. This production suffered disaster after disaster, leading it to be one of the most extreme examples of the Macbeth curse. On the way to the theater one day, the show's director and actress playing Lady Macduff were involved in a car accident. Only days later, tragedy struck the theater management itself when Lillian Baylis's beloved dog and constant companion, Snoo, died suddenly during rehearsals. Despite these unfortunate situations before the show even opened, things only got worse as opening night got closer. Laurence Olivier got sick and lost his voice, forcing the opening to be postponed. Just a couple of days before the show opened, a 25-pound stage weight fell from the flies and only missed Olivier by a few inches. Right before the final dress rehearsal, Lillian Baylis, Old Vic's theater manager, died from a heart attack. During the show, one of the swords used in the stage fight slipped out of an actor's hand and flew into the audience, injuring a person. Even after this production was over, the curse wasn't quite done yet. 17 years later, Old Vic produced Macbeth again. On opening night, the portrait of Lillian Baylis that was hung in the theater fell off the wall. The origin legend of how the Macbeth curse started may have been false, but one can hardly deny that the play has had some horrible luck over the years. Theater culture has many superstitions, and the combination of a centuries-old play containing magic and the bizarre circumstances that happen when you do live theater lead to a lot of actors, directors, and stage crew believing in the curse. Do I personally believe that the play is cursed, or that saying the name of it will bring bad luck? Well, I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. I tend to be wary of theater superstitions, and you won't catch me saying the name of the Scottish play in a theater. Let me know in the comments what you think of this curse. By watching this video, you've also been cursed by the Scottish play, but don't worry, I have my own cleansing ritual. You just have to like this video, subscribe, and watch more of my content. I even decided to be super nice and put a recommended video and a playlist on screen. If you're interested in doing further research on this topic, you can find the sources I used in the pinned comment below.